I was doing the SportsCenter either right before or right after Baseball Tonight on a Sunday night. They did like a half an hour show.
Yeah.
And Berman was doing that Baseball Tonight.
Lost my virginity to that song. No, I actually lost it to OMC's
It
How
makes it-
Bizarre, but Berman singing it.
By the way, similar beat.
Similar beat.
Yeah. Similar.
Hey, it's Herbert. And you're listening to the About Last Night podcast, you slippery little son of a bitch.
About last night.
Well, if you put it there, you got to call your stepdad. Good to see you, Gene. Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. Adam Ray here. This is the About Last Night podcast. You know that because you clicked on it. Click on here to subscribe to the show. Tell your friends, tell your lovers, tell your haters and the players. Clips, episodes, all the fun stuff right here on the ALN YouTube channel. Wow, this weekend, I'm going to be in stand-up live. Phoenix, Arizona. It's 197 fucking degrees, but we're doing shows indoors, thank God. 6 shows, July. See, I'm already getting heat stroke just thinking about it. July 27th through the 30th. Stand Up Live in Phoenix, Arizona. Come out and see your boy. The weekend after that, hilarities. It's going to be hilarious. We'll edit this out. In Cleveland at Hilarities. It's a great comedy club. First time there. Can't wait. Come out and see your boy. Special guest will be there. He's a podcaster. He's a friend. He doesn't wear shoes. That should tell you everything there that you need to read class. Okay. And then after that, La Jolla Comedy Store, August 10th through the 12th. All that ticket information at adamraycomedy.com. Thanks for going to see the Barbie movie. Thanks for the shout-out. Thanks for the love. Go see it. It's still in theaters. Should be for a while. Gosling, Robbie, Farrell, Ray. That's not how they're billing it, but that's how my mom's telling people about it. Today's episode is a banger. Rich Eisen is on today's show. SportsCenter anchor, NFL Network star, the host of the Rich Eisen Show on Roku. The guy is just a living legend. We met at the NBA Awards in 2016 and have stayed homies since. I've been on his show a bunch, and now he's on the ALN podcast for the first time ever. So enjoy the hell out of this episode. Follow Rich on social media. Let's put his social media up. It's right there. I'm not going to take time to pull it up, but there it is right there. Follow him, and follow me at Adam Ray Comedy on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and I guess now Threads. Special information, shooting it in September. Cannot wait. Have another one in the can. Stay tuned. Special coming. As well as the Dr. Phil live at the Comedy Store with Bill Burr. We did it last night. It was unbelievable. Burr was insane. We riffed for about an hour, and I can't wait to show you. We taped it. It's going up probably in the next 2 weeks, so stay tuned. But now that the tour dates and Twitter handles and merch info is out of the way, which you can get at adamraycomedy.com. Look at all this stuff. Go get it. Look at that. Look at all that. Look at all that. Go get it right now at adamraycomedy.com. And enjoy this episode of the About Last Night podcast with Rich Eisen.
All right.
You sound good in your headphones?
I do. I love the way I sound.
You should. The people love the way you sound.
I appreciate that, speaking on behalf of the people.
The one and only Rich Eisen is here.
Thank you, Adam Ray.
I got to be honest, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
To
Is this a sponsored water?
I think of most podcasts, but of the Melrose Podcast Studios and of the About Last Night podcast, unofficial. They're not throwing money, but they have sent me plenty of cases of water.
I didn't expect a 3-stair walk-up. I didn't know this required cardio to do your program.
I know,
I'm
Thank God you're fit.
Dude, the endorphins are flying right now. I feel
it does
good.
give you a little boost.
I do feel good.
You don't need that Jamba Juice.
Yeah.
You got
and
that.
I appreciated there was a code to actually walk in the door.
Yeah. Feel secure.
I do. I feel very secure.
You guys at the Rich Eisen Show, streaming now on Roku.
Yes, sir.
Every day. How is it to do a show every day?
It's fun, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But sometimes things will happen. Like today, Nick Saban talked about the 3-player quarterback competition going on in Alabama's training camp. and then used an analogy about he's just going to let it play out. How his grandma used to make cakes. And, you had to bake the cake, and you had to let the cake, if you took it out of the oven too soon, it would flop. And so he was using that analogy to describe the quarterback race. Oof. And some intrepid reporter asked the excellent follow-up question of what's his favorite cake. Yeah. And Nick Saban responded, carrot cake, which is an interesting choice, but I would normally let that just go. But then he said by a wide margin, which I found to be aggressive, and I found to be, as I called it today, an attack posture. Ooh. I couldn't let stand.
No.
Because for me, carrot cake is not even a top 10 cake.
I wouldn't even consider it a cake. It's a vegetable.
That's what I said.
That somehow got shoved into.
Yes. And then somebody calls in and says, but I'm not, taking into account the Philly cream cheese top.
Okay.
And I said, when I want a dessert, I want some sort of a celebration cake, which is something that is so filled with sugar that the under parts of my eyes begin to sweat. Like that's what I want out of a cake. Yes. I want the eye sweat of a cake.
You want your treats to puff you up.
Certainly something, a good reaction, not some visceral reaction, where I said I don't want vegetables for my dessert. That said, I also said I'm a New York Jew, and I think bagels for cream cheese. I don't think bagel. You know what I mean? Like so.
Here's my impression.
This
of
is what I talked about today, by the way. So that's why I got on this subject matter. Like,
here's my impression of anyone showing up to a birthday party and seeing that carrot cake's being served.
Yes.
What the fuck?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. By the way. Excellent.
Thank you.
I felt like I was transformed.
You felt you were at the party.
I felt I was at the party.
Yeah.
And
What's your next move, by the way? If you're at a party and there's some uncomfortable moment that transpires.
Yes.
Are you a guy that leans into it, makes a joke?
No,
because you're a funny dude, Rich.
I'm not a lean into it. I don't like
awkwardness.
I know. No.
Like so much so that you and I share a similar favorite TV program, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes, sir.
My mom can't watch some episodes,
and I understand that.
Yeah.
But that said, at least that I kind of a fly in the wall. I do love every episode of Curb.
Yes.
But that said, I don't like living that.
Right.
I'm not into that.
Okay, so you can watch from afar, but you don't. Speaking of Curb, what is your favorite episode? I was going to ask this down the line, but we're here. Too many to pick from. It's like asking what's your favorite carrot cake.
I think the Swan episode where they kill the swan on the golf course, because I know he's sending up Riviera. And I actually, when he was on my show, I asked him because you want to talk about taking risks, which obviously comedy is all about,
sure.
As you know.
Yes.
But the ultimate risk is to put your membership to Riviera on the line by sending it up on your insanely popular, world-renowned television show.
Yeah.
That was really out. I even asked Larry, I'm like, did you think twice about that?
He's
Were you worried about it? And because he's a member at Riviera.
Yeah, wow.
And he was a little dicey for him.
Wow.
But so that episode is great. Anything with Richard Lewis is great.
I know. The Funkhauser Memorial is one of my faves.
Oh, my God.
Where he takes flowers from
that's right. Because gives it to Funkhauser. He regifted the flowers.
No, remember he brought him he had a run-in at the ice cream shop with the samples.
Right. That's right.
And there was a woman that was trying to get Vivica A. Fox's kids and Susie Essman's kid, Sammy, into Dryden School, I think.
Yeah.
And then they were like, you got to make it right.
Yeah.
And so he brought the flowers. And then just Funkhauser being like,
notices the flowers.
Where'd you get the flowers, Larry?
My God, Tom.
It's so awkward.
The two scenes, though, if I had to choose, that are my favorite moments in Curb history involves J.B. Smoove with the soliloquy of "You got to get in that ass," because that he took it from the white supremacist in the doctor's office and didn't give it back. And next time you gotta open that ass.
Yes.
You gotta step in it.
Yes.
You gotta wipe your feet.
So funny.
And
all improvised.
All of that, right? That's number one. And then, I was told this was also not expected. Off the top of his head, Bob Einstein, who plays Funkhauser, may he rest in peace.
Yes.
When Seinfeld was on in that season.
I know what you're talking
and he
about.
told the joke
They were about to do the table read.
Yes, at the table read where he ad-libbed that. So when Jerry laughs at it, he didn't know that joke was coming.
Which we never see Jerry laugh like that.
Right, exactly.
Like truly, it's
Right.
there's certain people that we get to see, I guess, laugh more than others, but usually the people that are making us laugh aren't doing the laughing.
Yeah.
And Jerry, because when him and Larry are having their, back and forths that kind of, is what the shows end up being, they'll make each other laugh, but they're so dialed in that it's like they're probably thinking, oh, we're being funny, but they're not actually showing it.
Correct.
So he got so caught off guard.
He did. And
great.
the joke is so foul and so off color and so funny the way that he told it.
Yeah.
And the way that Larry was upset that he wasn't telling it fast enough. The whole thing.
Tell the fucking joke.
I love that scene. Now, I was fortunate enough to actually appear in one episode
What's
in a
that?
cameo years and years and years ago.
Remind me.
For Jeff Green's daughter's bat mitzvah, Jeff Garland's
Yes.
daughter's bat mitzvah, out on one of the hotel in Santa Monica, Casa del Mar, out
Yes.
in I think that's what it is, out on Ocean,
Okay, yeah.
out in Santa Monica. And
I vaguely do remember this. but
where
fill
I
me
just
in.
I shook his hand, but that's the episode where he got a hair stuck in his throat
From Cheryl.
from Cheryl, right? And how it was a rumor that he had like a tickle in his anus or something
the
like
gerbil.
that.
That was that episode?
Right, that episode, right? I think that's what I might be mixing them up. The
Yes.
gerbil, that's what it was.
Okay.
And so he then did his speech to the group, to the gathered masses at the reception about this is not true. He did not have a tickle in his anus.
Oh my God.
And I sat in Video Village, as they say, and watched him attempt to deliver that soliloquy without laughing no fewer than a dozen times. He couldn't make it through. And I wish I had those outtakes.
I know, right?
Sitting there, with the headsets on and those chairs, because
That's Make-A-Wish shit to get to sit there and watch that.
Yeah, my scene was like literally walking up to Jeff Garland, shaking his hand,
Just to
and
be there.
walking out.
A famous person that's
so
at the
then
bar mitzvah.
I hung out for the rest of the day
Oh my
to
God,
watch
Rich.
the rest of the shoot, and I watched him attempt to get through that soliloquy.
And you guys are just laughing every time.
He couldn't get through it. He had it. And he basically, it's like, okay, hold on a minute, stepped away, turned his back to everybody, flipped and tried to get through it again and couldn't.
Oh.
And then just like okay, I've got it, because he knew he was holding things up.
Do you remember what part was tripping him up?
Oh,
Was it
God.
just kind of
all of it?
Yeah.
Just the
the idea of what he was trying to
right, him just trying to explain everybody
at a bar mitzvah.
at a bar mitzvah,
Or
bat mitzvah.
Yeah. Even
That
worse.
right.
That's brilliant. Larry is, I wanted to ask you this too. I mean, having him on your show to me is like so crazy.
Yeah.
I know that stuff like that's not lost on you. You're such a fan of all this stuff, which I
Yes.
think it comes through in all your interviews and all your shows. That's why you're so fucking good.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, man. And not only just with back and forth and gab, but you have a genuine interest in not only these people, whether you've met them, even the first time I went on, we had met at the NBA Awards briefly. My buddy Adam Devine was presenting member, and we all went to that little after party and had a little tequila. And I mean, I've been a fan of you since, dude, every morning. You started SportsCenter when?
96.
Yes. Okay. That's when I started watching. It was you and Keith, and you and Stuart?
Me and Stuart,
You and Stuart.
mostly. Well, it started out where I got there, just real brief, I got there at age 26 from Redding, California. I was just doing local
You're
ABC.
from Redding, California.
No, I'm from New York City.
That's right.
But I had to go to, wherever I could go to get a foothold.
Yeah.
So that was like, Redding is about a 2-hour drive south of the California-Oregon border.
It's not New York.
It was like Northern Exposure, if you ever saw that show.
I grew up in Seattle. I went to
great.
Roslyn as a kid.
Okay, so
to
it
visit
really
the
was
set.
like I was the Jewish kid in the forest with the log lady.
Oh my God!
And I met I panned for gold. I went fly fishing for the first time in my life. People were awesome there.
You soaked it up.
I did, and then I just I interviewed a bull at a rodeo. Like that's the sort of twist, if you will, I was bringing to the local coverage there. And I sent a tape to the headhunter under the category of it's just first class postage, and that headhunter sent out tapes, and ESPN saw me, and it was like literally like I got a winning lottery ticket, like hit the Powerball.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, that happened. And I went to audition, and
Also, I'm not surprised. The proof's in the pudding. You were ready for that opportunity.
well, it was so wild just at age 26, just showing up, getting a job. And that was, when Kilborn was doing the late night show and Dan and Keith were doing the 11 o'clock Eastern, and Robin Roberts, Bob Lee, and Charlie Steiner were doing the 6 o'clock Eastern SportsCenter. And here I am at age 26, just walked in fresh out from Redding, California.
You were the youngest kid there?
I had to have been.
Yeah.
It was just mind blowing. So I started, doing, and this, just to bring it all,
Please, no.
in a point here, is that, you're kind enough to say that I'm, into the comedy aspect of our pop culture landscape.
Always have been.
I did stand up in college for 3
Michigan.
years. At Michigan, yeah. So I have nothing but the ultimate of respect for stand-up comedians and the process of what's funny and what's not, and what works, what doesn't, how you try stuff out, you don't, whatever. So I started to try to bring that to SportsCenter. The problem was making everything a joke, not like spending an ounce of time to give you the actual sports information. So I was bouncing around from team to team to team. Olbermann and I shared an agent, so he took an interest in me and was trying to tell me to pull back in a very tough love type way.
Pull back from what? Just going for the joke too much?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he would stroll down the hallway. I would be strolling the other way. And he would walk past me and go, nope, not yet. And I'm like, oh, I just kept walking. And then the next day, nope, not yet. And keep walking. So after the third day of this, I'm like, okay, Keith, I'll bite. What do you mean not yet?
Yeah.
And he's like, you aren't even close to doing the SportsCenter that you can do because everything's a joke. Where try out one night where you go through one highlight without making a joke. Just choose one, just do it straight. And then do two straight. And then do one entire segment straight. And then do one half of a show straight. Then do one entire show straight. Do that for an entire week and then an entire month. And then you'll be halfway there. And I'm like, holy shit.
What?
That's what I said.
But that's like his opinion, right?
Well,
like,
that's his opinion. But what his point was to make an extreme, plan for me. Because I was truly over the top. Like my first SportsCenter with sweetheart Larry Beal, who was very straight down the middle. He didn't really have catchphrases other than aloha means goodbye for his home run call. He did my first SportsCenter with him. And I did what I did in Reading, which was anytime it was a New York sports team, I would do my Marv Albert impersonation because I grew up in New York and that was my guy. That's who I imitate even on a daily basis today.
He was the guy that kind of got you into broadcasting more or less?
He did the NBC. He called Nixon radio games on radio.
Wow.
And then he was the sportscaster on WNBC for the local broadcasts.
Yeah.
And so I've absolutely wanted to be him, and I rip him off every day, even today. Cadence, sort of sarcasm. So at any rate, I did what I did in Reading. The entire highlight, Nick's highlight, in Marv Albert's voice. And it had to have been like 7-8 plays, 90 seconds long. And I did the entire highlight in Marv Albert's voice.
Great.
And then, but threw it back to Larry, who was on camera next. So I did the entire 90 seconds as Marv Albert. Back to you, Larry, like that.
Great,
and then he's just like that face. He just went, okay, like that was my first SportsCenter.
God.
And I did that over and over and over again.
So he didn't give you any sort of support, like,
Keith?
Thanks, Marv.
No.
No, I'm saying Larry.
No, well, I mean, he didn't know me. He probably was like, who the fuck is this kid from Reading, California?
You need rapport, right? The best duos liked each other off.
And so Stuart and I, we had rapport like from the get-go.
Yeah.
And we never really talked about why. I mean, we just always knew he and I were from completely different parts of the pop culture spectrum and levels of interest.
Sure.
Two different people from where we grew up. Obviously, our races are different, and we just had different upbringings and sensibilities and whatever. But when we got together And even it was that way off camera too. We completely meshed. I mean,
complimented each other.
By the way,
so
today
much.
as we're talking would have been his 58th birthday today.
No
Stuart.
way.
I know. So, at any rate, I don't know how we got on.
Well, so let me ask you this.
So I made everything a joke and a gag.
Yes.
And so I had to pull back. And
so you did pull back. So you took Keith's
I had
advice.
to. You know what also helped me pull back were your Seattle Sonics helped me pull back because I made everything a joke. And if the athletes were at the expense of it, I would do it. I wouldn't think twice about it because I was going for the joke. And that mattered. That's all that mattered was going for the joke.
But you were a big sports guy. Did you understand the value of still, because you were like, look, you're watching the highlight. So what else, is that kind of why you were like, I want to get my own, this is how I'm putting Rich Eisen's spin on it, right?
Right, correct. And
when I was a tour guide at Universal Studios on the tram in college, I mean, same thing. I was like, anyone can deliver and say, Escape from L.A. with Kurt Russell, which I said Kurt Warner many times and got called out. And I would be like, was in that courthouse.
Yeah.
And then, but I would always I was doing so many bits that it was like almost getting in the way of the tour. And my bosses would tell me like, every now and then, tell them about Apollo 13. And don't work out your shitty open mic jokes.
That's correct because there is still
they're watching for a reason,
right? Yeah. It took me a while to realize that they're coming for the information and staying for the entertainment, not the other way around. And so it took a while, and part of what helped me sort of mature and work in stuff like facts a little bit more. And pull back on the sarcasm and the smartassery was I always wanted to go out on the road and do an assignment, cover an event, because working there at the time and living in Central Connecticut, doing a show that started at 2:30 in the morning, and then they started expanding that late night show to 2 a.m., 1 hour long, and re-air it throughout the morning, which is what Stuart and I did for many years together. I honestly didn't know who I was talking to. I have no idea if people were out there listening. I would do the 2 a.m. show, and I would go home by the time it was all finished, 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I'd sleep. Then it would re-air throughout the morning. I would sleep through the largest exposure I've ever had in my television career, which those sports centers that aired over and over again. And then, there was no Twitter. There was no instant feedback. I would then go to work the next day. I had no idea if this was catching on or anything. It was like living on the moon.
You just had your folks to tell you, like, my friend Pam in Des Moines.
I guess,
you look so cute.
My dad, he didn't really know sports at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, zero of it. He
Eisen household wasn't a big sports
My
fan.
brother was. He's the one who got me into sports. So, my dad would call me up after doing a show, and he'd go, how do you say Mitch Richmond so fast without tripping over it? Like, that's the shit he would say to me.
That's fucking brilliant.
So I just pushed and pushed and pushed, and I want to go to an event. So they said, all right, Uncle, about a year in, go to Boston Garden, drive up.
Oh, this is you pushing ESPN
Yeah,
to go.
I kept saying, I want to go. They're like, fine. So you're going to cover a game for NBA Tonight, if you remember ESPN 2 and all those shows. Okay.
Dude.
Stuart was a frequent host of NBA Tonight.
It was almost like inside stuff, like, right? It was kind of like
your fellow Seattle honk Kenny Mayne did RPM Tonight.
Yes.
Bill Pito did NHL
Yes.
Tonight.
Yes.
So for NBA Tonight, they sent me to the old Boston Garden to cover the Celtics and at the time, winning everything in sight, Seattle Sonics. Wow. George Karl
This is 96.
Yes, sir.
When we're about so the year we went to the finals.
So, yeah, right. So that was the team that they won 60 games. So it was just a few months into my tenure, right?
Wow.
So, or is the 96-97 team?
95-96 was the Bulls Sonics finals.
Okay.
So 96-97 was one more. Kemp left the next year. So that was still an amazing team.
Correct. They were winning everything. So, because I got there in February of 96, and I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. I think that fall they sent me to the Boston Garden.
Wow.
Or the next spring. I don't know exactly what time it was, but I know I'd been on the air for close to a year.
That's a big deal, yeah.
And so I went there, and I sat underneath a basket in a press seat, fascinatingly enough, next to one of the Celtics' longtime scouts, I swear to God, Grandpa Al Lewis, who played Grandpa Munster, who was also at a comedy club on Staten Island. Al Lewis, the Grandpa Munster was a fucking scout for the Celtics, believe it or not. And he sat there, and I chit-chatted with him, and had their, I had a camera phone at the time, or a Twitter account.
Capture.
I mean,
Yeah, I know.
I don't know, an Instagram post.
What a weird
for sure.
thing to think of life without selfies,
dude. No question, but I was living it.
Yeah.
So
you remember it. That's all that matters.
Long story short, and then I'll shut up and actually answer a question
No,
that
this
you've
is
actually
great.
asked.
No, this is great. This is what you're here for.
Okay. So game's over. Sonics win. I go into the locker room, and the team comes walking in. And if you recall, one surly guy after another on that team.
Oh yeah.
Okay. They were
Kemp, Schrempf,
name
Frank Brokowski, Peyton,
the glove. Okay. George Carlton.
Hawkins,
I mean, they were all.
David Wingate.
Lead pipe wielding pros.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're coming to steal your soul tonight.
Yeah.
And we are going to beat the shit out of you and then go to the next town and do it to the next person.
Yeah.
They were like mean curs
Even
on
Sam
the floor.
Perkins, high as balls, had an edge to him.
He was walking in too. And I remember each one of them walked in and they all like looked at me, like staring a hole through me. And I immediately thought to myself, oh shit, what have I said about these guys on the air that they're looking at me like this? I took it as a me thing. They might not have known me from Adam at all. They might not have known me from SportsCenter. They just might have been like, who is this stranger in our locker room in Boston?
Is that the
I
guy
gotta
that
talk
covers
to this
Bulls
guy.
from Redding, California?
Exactly. Who knows? But they were staring a hole through me, and I thought to myself, oh, shit. What did I say about them on SportsCenter?
Yeah.
And I started going in my head, did I say that's it? Oh, my God, it could have been that. And I hated that feeling so badly. I made a pact to myself on the drive home. I will never, for the rest of my career, say something on the air that I would not say to the face of whoever I'm talking about.
Wow.
Because I will not do that again.
Wow.
This Emperor's no clothes feeling
Yeah.
was terrible. And that's what made me kind of pull back to realize, all right, let's go for the joke, but let's make sure it's not at, lowest common denominator, at the expense of anybody. Let's laugh with, not at.
Oh, yeah.
Hit
him and hug him.
That's it. Like, that's the way I want to do my life and career for as long as anyone will have me. And it were your Seattle Supersonics or whatever. They might have lost the Super by that point in time. But,
what an adjustment.
That was it.
Do you feel like that bled into your life as well? Like, you don't strike me as you've ever had like a mean bone in your body. So when you were, I think you were just trying to find your voice. So if you're making these cracks, to you, it's probably just like, it's just a joke because I'm trying to be entertaining.
Yeah, and
I
I'm
don't
a likable
truly
enough guy.
hate Detlef Schrempf. You know what I'm saying? I have no.
Right.
So you. Okay, so you kind of make that adjustment. Do you? First of all, I'm sure they did. Athletes, I think, at that point, SportsCenter, I mean, you tell me, when it popped on, I mean, I would watch it every morning in middle. So 96, I was, 8th grade.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching it every morning and all through high school before I go to school. It was like my routine. I mean, it was like I'd wake up extra early to watch you, dude.
I've heard so many people
like
say
my
that.
mom, it was just my mom and I from 8th grade all through high school. Make me breakfast. She'd be up with me. She'd watch with me or just be doing whatever. Or sometimes she had to go to work earlier than I'm there watching. But I was like not missing. There were times when I was late to school because you guys were like, you'd tease a highlight that I wanted to see. Yeah. And I was like, oh, fuck it, dude. I know Jaeger, who lives down the street, is gonna skip first period. I'll go with him and I'll go at second period.
That's great, man.
Isn't that crazy?
I've heard that from a ton of people.
So I know,
will come up to me, and like, hey, I watched you in the 4th, 5th grade before I went to school, 6th grade. And I'm like, how old are you now? And they're like, 41. I've got kids now. And I'm like, whoa,
crazy.
It blows me away that, and then I'll see, someone will tweet out a video of me doing a Wally Zerbiak highlight or something
Great
like
basketball
that.
name, by the way.
Something from 97, 98, when The Last Dance was on. And the final episode 10, I finally popped up on there, and my kids were seeing it, like me with my little flock of seagulls hair. And it just feels like it's a different person, a different time.
Really?
Hell yeah. Although I met my wife there, and so my 3 kids are technically ESPN babies. And,
wow.
Yeah.
Do you still and I think I know the answer to this question, but like, your zest for, obviously it's just it's a different time starting at that place and trying to find who you are versus now being like, I'm fucking Rich Eisen. And I bring that to everything, and it's why I've had so many opportunities in every sport and at the highest level, and the regard and respect people have for you, and how everyone from Stallone to Brady to LD wants to come on and chat with you. Do you still, I guess, go into each day with and again, like, you know, times change. We now live in this social media world where you can read stuff and you can, it's for good and bad, right?
Yeah.
There's more exposure for sure with all the clips from the show, and how people digest stuff is different. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, how do you keep a consistent love for the game? Because, you know, I'm 16 years into stand-up and I still love it. There are days, right? I had a week just last week, and it's proud to say very rare, but I'm still a human being, and there definitely comes weeks where I'm like, I'm burnt out, I'm not motivated, I don't feel funny for a few days, or I'm like, all right, well, I try to put it on myself, like, I got to maybe be a person and do some stuff so I can kind of step out of, it's because I'm doing this too much, and I'm just like grinding too hard, and I'm just not, you know, stopping to smell the roses, more or less. But how do you keep a consistent love for what you do?
I don't know. It's just I love it.
Yeah.
And the show that, you know, you're kind enough to appear on a couple times, and that you're welcome to come on anytime you want. I own it now. So it's now like I'm in management. I'm trying to run a business as well as host that show.
You're producing it as well. Yeah. I mean, it's
you know, I could bend your ear about how that wound up happening to me, but it did, where the parent company that birthed my show tapped out of it and left me up to try and save it, you know, on the outset of the pandemic. And so the guys who stuck with me, I'm there happy to stick with them and grow it and keep it going. And that's a different challenge. And then, of course, being NFL Network year 20, you know, the NFL is just the greatest, narrative generating machine. It's just one story after another after another.
Is football your favorite sport?
Baseball was the one that I covered at ESPN and grew up loving. Never thought the NFL would be a gig that I would ever be part of, because when I was at ESPN, that was Bellman doing, you know, the Sunday night countdown.
Does everybody have a Bellman impression?
Oh, yeah.
Back. Right?
Well, no, the one that I have for him, I've told this story before, but happy to tell it here as well.
Please. There's only been 2 Bellman stories told on this podcast.
Okay, so here's your third.
There's actually been none. I don't know.
Okay, here we go. This will be your first. Yeah. I'm glad to break ground and with this.
That was the first Bellman impression that's ever been attempted on this podcast.
Very good. So, as I've established with you, I got there at age 26, and before ESPN News was born, which is something that has come and gone.
Yeah.
So I was the last one that they hired to just throw right on SportsCenter. And but before they did that, they had me observe shows for 4 weeks where I would just sit and watch it get produced, watch it get written by the report.
Shadow for a bit.
Correct.
I was just going to ask, because we skipped over, but when you went from Reading and that tape got accepted, I guess I was like, wait a second. So they just saw that tape and go, cool, you're on? No. You'd watch for
I'll answer that real quick too. Is I got a call at work from ESPN, actually from an agent first, to say he had heard that I was the hottest up-and-coming sportscaster in America.
Holy shit.
Can I send him a tape? I remember his name. He was Henry Reish of William Morris. And I remember thinking to myself, I said to him, I'm like, if you say so, because, you know, I don't feel very hot right now.
How do you get that sort of traction?
I had no idea what was going on behind the scenes after I sent a tape to a headhunter. None. But he got a tip, and he called. Can you send me your tape? Sure. Called my brother up. You'll never guess who just called me, what just happened. And he's like, that's amazing, whatever. So hang up. 15 minutes later, my head's still spinning. I'm supposed to hop in one of the news cars and drive about an hour away to cover a high school volleyball game. And you have to record it on your 3/4-inch camera, go back and edit. It's a one-man band operation. So I remember just my head spinning. Phone rings again, and it was one of those phones that would ring twice if it was outside the area code calling in.
Right.
And they would only ring. It would be like my parents.
Yeah.
You know? So ring again. I said, wow, I'm such hot shit. That's ESPN on the phone. Pick up the phone, and it's a guy named Al Jaffe who I'd been sending unsolicited tapes and resumes to for years saying, you have no idea I'm your guy, but I'm your guy. I want to be on SportsCenter. It's my goal. Never sent me anything back. And it's, hey, is this Rich Eisen? I'm like, yeah. He goes, this is Al Jaffe of ESPN. That's the look I made. And I remember thinking to myself, he's explaining, like, we've seen your tape. We think you're talented. We'd love to set up a meeting. How quickly can we get a meeting with you? And I remember thinking to myself, my brother must have called one of my friends. And I almost said, really, which motherfucker
because you can't believe this. Yeah.
Put you up to that?
Who's doing an Al Jaffe voice?
Right. Why
Which
would
one of
you
my
even
friends?
know? But then I realized, how would they know the name of the guy, right? My brother wouldn't either. So I'm like, oh, my God, this is, like, legitimately fucking happening. And he set up a meeting where they were coming to Los Angeles in a month for the Cable Ace Awards.
Perfect. Hosted by?
I don't recall.
Oh, it's okay.
And no, I do remember. It was Kilborn.
Great.
Killer
Cool.
was doing the Cable Ace Awards.
Cool.
I do remember that. So Cable Ace Awards, all of that shit, and here we go. It's time to interview. I meet them all at what's now the SLS hotel here, the old Nico Hotel on La Cienega.
Yeah.
Met them all one by one. They're like, let's have you out for an audition in January. Okay. I flew halfway across the country. A snowstorm made me turn around and go back. I thought, I'm never going to get this job. They're like, relax. Come back next week. I stayed in a hotel across the street, the Radisson Hotel across the street in Bristol.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sleep. I was restless. And part of the reason why I couldn't sleep is I kept hearing running water. I realized it was the individual peeing in the toilet upstairs for me. I'm like, holy shit.
By the way, Radisson, hope you've upgraded your thin-ass
no
walls.
Shit. So I then decided, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'll just turn on SportsCenter. Get ready for tomorrow. And I sat there, and I watched Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann SportsCenter, and I sat there saying every highlight, I was thinking, this is how I would do it if I had the chance. That's how I would do it. This is how I would do it. You know what? That would have been my line. Great line that Dan and Keith said, but this would have been my interpretation of it. That's what I did. Go in the next day. It's time to do the audition, and they say you're going to use these highlights that we cut for last night's SportsCenter. Had no idea that the peeing in the bathroom that kept me up.
You got to find this guy.
Was actually helping me. I had no idea that I was preparing for the audition. When that happened, I'm like, I've got this. I've already seen the highlights. I know what I'm going to say.
What if it was Al Jaffe? And he was like, dude, this is how I prepped you, kid.
I'll go upstairs and I'll pee in the toilet.
You ain't sleeping, you're prepping.
That's what happened.
No one sleeps through Jaffe piss. You're like,
so
right, dude.
I nailed the audition. I
Wow.
friggin' crushed it.
What are the odds?
I know. It's like meant to be.
So you took a step when he said that. You just kind of like, what was it? Just kind of like, oh my God, this is mine.
That's what I said. I've got this.
Because you
own it.
You remembered everything you kind of were setting yourself up with.
I will own it. I will own it.
So
it was perfectly timed because I'd already seen it.
That's fucking nuts, dude.
So yes, that's how that was. So cut to, so that was middle of January. I'm hired. My first day on the job is Valentine's Day. So boom, life changed. I'm now officially a member of ESPN and SportsCenter. And
in less than a year? No,
in a year and a half.
Rich, that's
a year and a half.
That's everything in your life. I mean, is from
changed instantly.
Man, life is nuts, dude.
It was.
But
insane.
here's why I say like luck. I think there is always a little bit of, but again, you create your own good luck. I've firmly
It's
believe
the Branch Rickey line that luck is the residue of design, and and it's so
because you put yourself in that position, and then I mean, look at you to use that like a distraction like that to go. Well, then I should instead of trying to sleep through it and getting no sleep.
Yeah,
and that's I mean I don't know, man. That's just
It was amazing. I couldn't believe my luck the next day when they're like, "Oh, so we're just going to use the same tapes from last night's SportsCenter. And I'm like, you mean from Dan and Keith? Like, yeah. So,
And you're going to do it from the bed you sat on in the
Yeah,
Madison.
that's right. I'm just not comfortable doing it unless somebody's peeing on top of me. Can you have somebody pee on, like, I asked for a golden shower, a Charlie Steiner golden shower.
Oh,
They almost fired me on the spot.
Oh, my God.
No, but
Great merch, by the way, Stein, if you're listening.
So here's the Bellman story.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm observing SportsCenter, and back in that day, Chris was long gone from SportsCenter, but would come back to do like a week's worth of shows.
Yeah.
And he did a week's worth of shows while I was observing. And the thing that I observed that I will never forget is the guy who walked in the meeting is the guy I knew from television. Like, same person, same inflection. And that's not to say that Bellman's always on. I mean, you could say that about anybody who's successful on television.
Yeah.
But he was the same person, cracking jokes, making lines. I could see he was maybe workshopping a few ideas that work. It made people laugh in the meeting. He'll take that and put it on the air. I watched that over 3 days, and I thought to myself, that's why he's successful. And subsequently, Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, Stewart, name him, Linda Cohn.
Steve Levy?
Yeah, same person on the air as off the air, which is, a great sign of somebody who's very successful in this business.
Yeah.
So I noticed that. So it allowed me to be comfortable whenever I would see him in the offices, but I still never really addressed him until about 2 weeks into my tenure. It had to be like early April or mid-April.
Yeah.
I was doing the SportsCenter either right before or right after Baseball Tonight on a Sunday night. They did like a half an hour show.
Yeah.
And Bellman was doing that Baseball Tonight.
Lost my virginity to that song. No, I actually lost it to OMC's How Bizarre, but Bellman singing it.
By the way, similar beat.
Similar beat.
Yeah. Similar.
Yeah.
So
Cruising down the freeway.
they had at ESPN these cubicles that you would sit at, and the prefabricated cubicle walls would create these hallways that you'd walk through to get from one building to the other or to the studio.
Yeah.
And folks who worked at ESPN would take the ESPN flags, banners that you would see hanging over the side of a stadium to let you know ESPN is broadcasting the game. They would take those banners and hang them over the sides of the prefabricated walls with a note that said, to on-air talent, please sign for such and such charity. And I'd been walking through these prefabricated cubicles with 5, 6, 7 banners out there thinking to myself, do I dare sign one of these things? I've only been here a month. Like, what if I'm like, signing next to Keith Olbermann and he strolls around the corner, like
erases it, goes, nope, not yet.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Or like, I just didn't want to overstep.
Totally.
I just didn't want to overstep, like, or think that I'm showing off like I'm a mall. Yeah, I was in Redding, California, wiping my ass, 3 months ago, but I'm hired here and I'm a peer of yours.
Yes.
And I'm signing this banner for charity. They don't know me at all, but yes,
they're gonna be pumped at this. Yes,
do you know how the silent auction is gonna be through the roof?
Yeah.
With the new guy signing, like I would never. Like I was totally in mortal fear of that. So, Bellman sitting in the makeup chair, I'm waiting, and I just decided to go for it. I'm like, Chris, Rich Eisen, I'm new here. He goes, I've seen you. And I'm like, okay, I know who you are. And I'm like, great. Well, I appreciate that. And I got a question to ask you. I mean, who better to ask than you for this question? He's like, shoot. And I tell him my predicament. Like I said, Chris, how many shows do I have to do before I should feel comfortable signing these banners? And he goes, how many SportsCenters have you done? At least one? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, then fuck it. Sign them all. And I turned around, I grabbed the Sharpie, and I went right down the line, and I never thought about it again. Never. Like, I got Bellman's who better to give me permission
That's the seal of
than
approval.
him. Like, and ever since then, I'm forever grateful for him. Like,
it's a vote of confidence
I felt
too.
Comfortable in a way. Fuck it, sign them all.
By the way, I love you got the shoulder bounce.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you definitely,
How many can do one?
Is he a New York guy too?
No, he's from. He is. Yeah,
Okay,
he is.
yeah,
he is. He went to Brown. Yeah, he talks about growing up in Shea Stadium all the time.
Wow.
He's a sweetheart. Keith went to high school with him.
Wow.
He's known him forever.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a cool
and Keith once described Berman to me as the 2-ton gorilla who asks if it's okay to sit down. And that's he's larger than life.
Yeah.
And he is the man who helped put ESPN on the map in terms of mixing comedy and lines with sports, and also making it aspirational for athletes to want to see themselves on it. And
how so?
Like they want to be on it. They want
Berman to call their highlight.
Give him a nickname.
Oh yeah.
My two nicknames. I had two Berman nicknames. One was Rich Betty Davis Eisen. Okay.
Oh my God.
And another one.
Your impression, and that is like very satisfying.
The other one is Rich Kaleidoscope Eisen. And he's like, you like the Beatles or you like Kim Carnes? Either one, you got one. Like that's the way. That's what he would say to me.
God.
Rich Betty Davis Eisen.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, man.
Have you seen him at all? Is he yeah,
of course.
Wait,
he's at the Hall of Fame every year, the Pro Football Hall of Fame every
year. Nicknames for athletes. I mean, I'm trying to think of some of the more famous ones he dropped.
Be Home Blylevin.
Right.
Jim, two silhouettes on Deshays.
Yeah.
The best one is Bernard Gilkey until proven innocent.
Oh my God! I'm trying. Wasn't there a Dante Bichette one? I feel like I'm hearing one in his voice.
I remember that one.
Jay something I don't know. He did. I remember there were Mariner ones. I always remember. Yeah.
Bernard Gilkey, innocent until proven guilty. That's what it is.
That's amazing.
Oh God, Joe Actual Retail Price was my favorite.
Oh my God.
I forget some other ones.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my Berman story.
That's incredible. Is a catchphrase you don't go? That's got to be another thing in the SportsCenter world that. That you probably are coming in being like, all right, at some point I got to have my own. I think in any broadcasting,
right.
I asked, Rick Riz has become a good homie, Mariners broadcaster, and when we first, kind of met at a show and played pool till about 3 a.m. and I was like we were just fanning out, and he's, a guy like you that loves it so much that he can talk sports forever. So we had no problem just going down memory lane or whatever. But I was like, how soon do you try to develop a catchphrase? And he's like. You can't. It's almost like he's like you're not trying to write a closing stand-up bit that's gonna. You kind of have to let it come to you more or less.
Yes.
Yeah. So
the one that I had for a home run call was he got it.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. He got it. It's the home run call, and then when Carlos Delgado got it.
Yeah.
So I would just kind of, and that came from that call shtick. Came from a fraternity brother of mine.
Perfect.
Named David Satlin, who's had an immensely successful career as a producer at ESPN.
Wow.
For many years. But at the time, we met at Michigan. And when I went to grad school, so I went to Michigan, then I was I worked for my hometown newspaper in Staten Island Advance, because we put the accent on the first syllable on things in Staten Island. So not the Staten Island Advance, the Advance.
Yeah.
So, and I just decided, I want to try my sports casting career and go for it. So I went to Northwestern Medill School of Journalism for a year. And the last quarter of that program was in Washington, D.C. You worked in D.C. and you would make pieces for actual real television stations that used us as their correspondents, so they didn't have to pay like real professionals to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm in Washington, D.C., and crashed at Dave Satlin's house along with 3 other fraternity brothers that I knew. They all were Maryland, D.C.-based people, and they let me crash there for 3 months. And that was the night. There was a night where I think it was either Gretzky going for the all-time points scored record or goals scored record. I don't remember which one, but he's going for it. We're watching the game on ESPN, and my buddy Dave Satlin is cashed out on the couch. Like, he's out. He's snoring, ripping some serious Z's. We have to turn the volume up because he's asleep.
The edibles were kicking in.
Gretzky, no, there was no edibles, I don't
Pre-edible,
believe.
okay.
So Gretzky shoots, he scores, breaks the record. We're all, like, having a good time, and then sit down, and then he wakes up. He turns to the screen, looks at it, and he goes, oh, he got it, and rolled right back over and goes back to sleep. And the rest of the semester, we would use that line in the house, like, you got the garbage? I got it. You're going to pick that up? I got it. You got it. Like, we would make fun of him using that.
Frat guys are the best at picking up on, like,
yeah,
things that just, we're going to run that back.
That's
we're
what we
using
did.
that every day this week.
Yeah, like the Letterman rule of comedy, which is use it, then beat it into the ground. And then it becomes funnier. So we would do that over and over again to the point where by the end of the semester, I'm like, if I do reach my goal of being a SportsCenter anchor one day, my catchphrase will be,
oh my God,
I
dude.
say, you have my scout's honor. I will do it. And that's how I came up with that catchphrase. I'm imitating my fraternity brother, dead asleep at the couch, like coming to, saying he got it and rolling back over and going to sleep.
Oh my God.
And that's, so some of them are, you know, like born out of something you'd have no idea. It's like an inside gag with just a few guys. And
also makes it more special every time you do it, probably. Like, takes you back
and
there.
I still do whenever I do like a football highlight for NFL Network, and it's like a field goal.
Oh, yeah.
I called the Germany game last year.
Yeah.
I'm calling a few games now, and if there's a field goal, I'll use that for a field goal, like from 50 yards away. You got it as it goes through the uprights.
That's incredible, man.
Just a little fun.
I sent you a text after that. You crushed that. I don't know how that felt for you, but your whole Germany experience.
Yeah.
This is a thing why I love social media and why I think it's very beneficial and just valuable. Like, you took us on your whole journey.
Did you watch that?
Oh, yeah.
You saw that?
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And it made me want to go because you were just like, you were very active in, it's just like, I love people that, I sometimes struggle with when I'm on the road in a city that I haven't been to. I'm like, man, I'm like, I should just stay in and do all this work I haven't done yet this week in LA instead of venturing off and really like seeing. But if you're in Germany, it's like, especially when you travel overseas, you would be remiss to not like step out. But you just had a great showcase of your travels in the city, and it made me more excited to watch the game.
Oh, that's so cool.
Because then I was like, oh, I bet he'll maybe then bring some of that to the booth. And,
what you're referring to, for those who might not have seen it, it was noon. You know, my wife, who normally does love to come to these international games because we get a chance to just go away together, and she had to stay home to attend my oldest son's appearance in James and the Giant Peach.
Amazing. Is your oldest son trying to be an actor?
He's
doing it.
Yeah, well, it was an 8th grade performance of it.
Great.
I know.
It's where it starts.
So look, I mean, 8th graders doing Roald Dahl. I mean, look, it's all good.
Hey, I was Danny Zuko in grade 10, and I did not have Peach to precede it.
Yes.
I had, I think, Cowardly Lion in the 5th grade. Mm-hmm. So he's on the
right
right track.
If my son only winds
he goes
up
from
in
Peach to Zuko,
Emmy-nominated television events like Welcome to Chippendales, I'm in. I'm in for him.
Okay,
so at any rate, so he she couldn't make it, and I'm there by myself, and it's noon, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stroll to the beer gardens. It's just like a few blocks away.
Awesome.
And I hit the Instagram Live button, which I don't do too much because I don't want to be like, the Truman Show. I'd like to I don't need a camera on me all the time, but I just kind of wanted to just stroll through and just give people an idea of what it's like to be in Germany for an NFL event, because I had already been there for a day and I'd seen how it's kind of different than London. Like, I had met Buccaneer fans. It was Bucks versus your Seahawks, and I'd already met like Buccaneer fans that came from Ghana, from obviously the African continent. Met people from Dubai, and those folks don't normally go to a game in London. Like, Germany was more centrally located for people to come from different continents, not just different parts of Europe. And I'm like, wow, this is different than the usual. And plus, the Germans know football from NFL Europe, and they had multiple franchises there. They're really into it. And I felt a different intensity, so I'm like, I'm just going to walk. And then I start walking the beer gardens, and it was just nonstop fans. It was like the United Nations. It was every team was represented.
Wow.
And people were drinking at noon and
Good vibes.
Total, like a great vibes. And then the game itself was like a Super Bowl. It felt like it. Brady and Pete Carroll, who have faced off against each other, as we know, sorry to bring up.
Talk about my parents' divorce next.
In a Super Bowl.
Jesus Christ, Rich.
They both said it felt like a Super Bowl. They both said it was a top 5 experience for them.
Wow.
And so this is decisions you make as a broadcaster in real time. And what do you do? So 2-minute warning. Brady and the Bucs need one more first down to wrap the game up.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a great game. That's all you can ask for, right?
It was great. I mean, it had everything.
Yeah.
It had, scoring. It had Brady going out for a pass and then slipping, and Leonard Fournette's pass was intercepted. Yeah. It had everything involved in it. So here we are now, end of the game, and it's the 2-minute warning, and they play Sweet Caroline in the stadium, in the Allianz Arena, with the home of Bayern Munich. And all 75,000 fans there were singing in unison, okay? It was unbelievable, and it's to the point where, we couldn't believe it. We're looking at each other in the booth, me, Mooch, Kurt, and Michael Irvin. We're like, this is unbelievable. And sure enough, we're coming back from break, and I'm thinking, if they're still singing, I hope they're still singing. Like, I hope it doesn't end, that they don't stop playing the music because the 2-minute warning's about to be over.
Right.
And the producer says, it gets in my ear, says, when we come back, you got to read this card. Coming up after the game is the so-and-so post-game report. You got to stay tuned for it. So it's what we call in the television world business. You got to do some business coming back. So let's do this piece of business coming back. And I made the specific decision to, when they came back, I just basically said something along the lines of, hey, everybody, you just got to listen to this. They're singing like Neil Diamond here in Germany. Like, this is nuts. And so I just shut up and listened to the sing-along, and that's what people kind of picked up on social media. Now, that might not have been the case if I just kept yammering.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, your best choice in our world is to shut up.
Let it breathe.
Let the moment live. Because I'm telling you, Adam, like, there's 2 games coming up in Frankfurt. I don't know if it's going to be the same as Munich, but unreal. And one of the games in Frankfurt this year is Dolphins-Chiefs.
Oh, my God.
Tyreek Hill against the Chiefs is going to be in Frankfurt, Germany. Mahomes and the Chiefs going abroad. It's going to be wild.
Was that experience a top
5? Absolutely. In anything I've ever done for any sport, any network, 1,000,000%.
I was going to ask,
I'll
because
never forget it.
That's amazing.
Sweetheart, I'm hungry. Well, why don't you make yourself some soup again? Can't we go to the grocery store? I hate going to the grocery store. It takes too long and people try to kidnap you. Hey guys, Adam Ray here for the About Last Night podcast. Are you also having trouble potentially getting kidnapped at the grocery store? It's a real thing. It's happened to my wife twice. So, HelloFresh is here to save your life with farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep, so you don't have to go to the store. You can just count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. My wife and I have been using HelloFresh for a couple years now, and we're obsessed, okay? We love to cook. She loves to cook. I eat the stuff she cooks. And there are so many great recipes that they're coming out with, especially just in time for summer. You want all the good tasting food at your doorstep, and HelloFresh has it. From chef-crafted seasonal recipes to their new Fresh and Fit summer menu, HelloFresh brings flavor right to your door. Pre-portioned ingredients help cut down on food waste, while step-by-step instructions make cooking a breeze and not a chore. Do you know what I'm saying? You want your home to feel like a hangout place with crowd-pleasing eats. A backyard bratwurst or a tangy key lime pie. HelloFresh Market makes summer entertaining a cinch. The ingredients travel from the farm to your door in less than 7 days for a quality that you can taste. And did you know that HelloFresh offers more than just delicious dinners? They do. It's now easier than ever to skip that extra grocery store run by adding snacks, sides, and more to your weekly order. All you got to do is simply shop HelloFresh Market and take your pick from a curated selection of over 100 items. They got so much shit, man. You want to eat well this summer? HelloFresh's menu features features Calorie Smart and Protein Smart lunch and dinner options, plus new vegan dinners to choose from. All you vegans, can you hear me? You're probably asleep because you're tired, but HelloFresh makes it easy to reach your food goals with flavorful recipes that leave you feeling satisfied. They offer 40 recipes to choose from every single week, so you're never going to get bored. That's the one thing about food. You don't want to eat the same shit if you're trying to eat healthy. HelloFresh mixes it up. They got fast and fresh recipes ready in 15 minutes or less. Plus, HelloFresh is 25% cheaper than takeout. It is. You know it is. When you Uber Eats and Postmates, that shit adds up. They feature quality proteins, fresh produce, and plans for many lifestyles. It's no wonder why HelloFresh, one more time, is America's #1 meal kit. Be a part of the HelloFresh family. Start living and feeling better right now. Go to HelloFresh.com/about50. Use promo code about50, I swear to God, for 50% off plus free shipping. Guys, HelloFresh.com/about50. And use promo code ABOUT50 for 50% off plus free shipping. That's incredible. If you like food and you like feeling good, HelloFresh is the place to be. So one more time, HelloFresh.com/about50, promo code ABOUT50 for 50% off plus free shipping.
You've been fortunate to do so many insane, whether it's just attend games. I mean, even all the I think I was, you were down there. I mean, for NFL Network, you guys are always down for every Super Bowl, right? So, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
There can't be a shortage of, I don't know, kid in a candy store.
Oh, God.
Like every time you set up shop and you're on the right, like I don't know, the whole ambiance around the Super Bowl to me, I think is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but is different than any other.
Oh, yeah.
I guess because it is one game versus.
But there are other ones that have a similar feel to it, like that game I'm just referring to. NFL Network sent me, Steve Mariucci, and Marshall Faulk to New Orleans for the reopening of the Superdome after Katrina. That was the game where, Falcons versus Saints, and then obviously, the famous blocked punt by Steve Gleason, who subsequently began his battle of ALS that he's still fighting.
Yeah.
And that there's that statue out in front of the Superdome of him blocking the punt.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, I get goosebumps just talking about it because it was an insane atmosphere all day. When the good people of New Orleans have an entire day to ramp up for an evening kick, the swing oil is flowing.
Yeah.
And it was a party, okay? Like, as you might imagine, the reopening of the Superdome. And Atlanta is in, and that's, an beyond underrated NFL rivalry is Saints-Falcons. They despise each other. The fact that the Saints had a chance to make the Super Bowl in Atlanta, okay, the fact that the Saints had a chance to make the Super Bowl in Atlanta a few years ago drove Falcons fans nuts. And the way that the Saints lost because there was no pass interference called against the Rams, they were like chef's kiss. New Orleans isn't here, and they're gutted. Like
God.
It's an underrated rivalry.
Yeah.
So at any rate, Vic and the Falcons get the ball to kick off the game. Third down, Vic rolls to his left. Watch it on YouTube. He rolls to his left, and the ball comes loose. And when the ball came loose, it was the loudest I've ever heard a stadium, that the Saints fans thought that they could get a turnover 3 snaps into the reopening of the Superdome because Vic fumbled. They shrieked, and then the ball rolled out of bounds. You heard a shriek, and then, oh God. Okay, so now we're going to punt, and then they blocked the punt.
Oh, my God.
Loudest, look, you're seeing it. Like, it's stand-up, loudest I'd ever heard it.
Those are Jew bumps.
Incredible.
That's insane.
Unreal, and that wasn't a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Funny story is, so we were with Marshall Faulk, who is Mr. New Orleans.
Yes.
He's the king of New Orleans.
Yes.
He used to sell popcorn in the Superdome.
No kidding.
Yes, he is the king of New Orleans, his hometown. It's me, him, and Steve Mariucci. And right around the third quarter, Marshall says to us, "You want to go out afterwards?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
With the king of the city, fuck yeah.
And Mooch goes, "I'm tired. I think I'm just going to go back to the hotel, take a rain check." And I look at him, and I'm like, "Yeah, Steve, next time the storm of the century nearly wipes New Orleans off the fucking map,
Yeah.
then you'll go out the night the Saints reopen the Superdome.
Yeah.
And then hopefully Marshall will be in town to show you the good time. Do it then. What are you going to do? Like, are you out of your mind?" And he, God bless him, he went back to his hotel room. He was tired. but that was a night of nights.
Really?
That was incredible.
turned
And that
it
wasn't a Super Bowl either.
Wow.
But I'll never forget that.
Have you had a baseball game? I guess, is there a favorite sports memory? People probably, I don't know if you get asked this a lot, but again, for someone who's such a fan but has gotten to attend so many games, or is it even a game you've watched with, I don't know, your brother, or been to like you had the, you've been able to flex the Eisen, card and go to a game and sit in a spot where you got to see a Jordan Final Wizard game, or I saw Jordan play for the Wizards at Staples Center 2001.
Right.
I don't consider that my greatest sports memory. It's something I definitely cherish because I'm like, I got to see Jordan live. And did he miss a dunk on a breakaway? And everyone, definitely, that was not fun to watch. But it was seeing him live was cool.
Yeah.
Going to the Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl, and just making a weekend out of that. And seeing that with Brad Williams, who's a Broncos fan, and the way it went down.
60-degree weather too.
Yeah, and
it was freezing throughout the week, and then it was 60 degrees on kickoff day.
And everybody picked the Broncos. I don't know who you picked.
I'm sure.
Everybody was like, offense is going to beat defense, and then I'm walking around New York City, and I see so many Seahawks jerseys, and I'm like, oh, we traveled for this.
There's the ball sails past Peyton Manning's head.
Yeah.
Because he didn't hear the snap count, and it led to 2 points, and then
it was over.
It was over after that. It was over after that. Unbelievable. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. So is there? I don't know.
Yeah,
watching something at home like a game.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple baseball stories because my first major gig at ESPN was to be the in-studio host of Major League Baseball on ESPN Radio. ESPN Radio got its first live rights deal while I was there, and with Major League Baseball. Sunday nights, Wednesday nights on occasion, playoffs, World Series, All-Star Game.
Was Ravitch doing that with you? Who was?
No, I was the.
Just you?
No, it was me in the studio, and then in the booth was John Miller and Joe Morgan.
That's right. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Unreal combo. I mean, you got Bert and Ernie, Don and Melania, and Morgan and Miller.
Well, actually, it's interesting you say Don, because I've got so many stories. So,
please, we'll do a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4.
Okay.
This friendship ain't going anywhere.
So I don't know which one you want me to tell first, but
dealer's choice.
Okay. I got 2 baseball stories and then a Trump story. That
awesome.
Okay.
We got about 20 more minutes.
Okay.
We'll get them all in.
I'll get them all in.
Yeah.
So I'll go in order.
Great.
So the 1999 All-Star Game in Fenway Park was the famous McGuire-Sosa home run derby.
Oh yeah.
I was part of the National League side, and Stuart Scott did the American League side, or one or the other. I don't remember. But radio for the night of the All-Star Game, I was positioned behind home plate to do the pregame show, and that was the night of the All-Century team was announced.
And Ted Williams did the first
pitch,
I
man.
think.
Yes, correct.
Oh my God.
So I'm standing behind home plate, and the All-Century team comes strolling out of the garage in center field, like coming out of the corn to the Field of Dreams music, as Kevin Costner takes to the microphone to announce
I
the
just
team.
got goosebumps.
To announce the team.
In my dick. That's how much that emotion just rung through my body.
And the All-Century team lined up from first to second and second to third as the Major League Baseball All-Stars, after that ceremony was announced, and they took their positions upon the baselines from home plate to the corner. So it was a true constellation, diamond of All-Stars.
Wow.
Past and present. And then from that, out comes Ted Williams on a golf cart in a hitter.net hat that his son put on his head, not a Red Sox hat, hitter.net. And then he comes out, throws the first pitch to Carlton Fisk, as I believe Junior and Tony Gwynn steadied him to throw the pitch to Fisk. And I'm standing behind home plate. And it's my job to describe what's happening. And I must have blacked out. Because the one thing,
I'll show you the footage. You just went,
it just fell down.
Yeah.
And so all the All-Stars, when that first pitch was over, they convened on the mound. They all surrounded Ted Williams. McGuire told me Ted Williams asked him, "Do you smell smoke when you hit a baseball?" Because he used to hit it so hard, he used to smell smoke when he hit a baseball.
What a
He asked
flex.
McGuire if that, exactly right. Hey,
or do you just smell the juice in your biceps?
Oh boy. So it went on forever to the point where the PA announcer at Fenway Park had to tell these guys, break it up. We got a game to play. And that's when Pedro came out and struck out 4 of the first 6 National Leaguers.
In Fenway.
Game was essentially you didn't have to play the rest of the game after that.
Oh, my God.
Never forget that. That was unbelievable.
That's also, riddle me this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
This last All-Star game, I went up to do some stuff in Seattle and some interviews, and some Tops made a card of me, so I signed some cards at the Fan Fest thing. And the game is always kind of whatever. At least it is for me now. Maybe I'm older and I don't have a connection to the players like I did. I think sports is like music, like movies, right? Like shows where we're like, man, like the 90s or whatever, at least for me, I don't know how you are, what your era is. It definitely is like that with Saturday Night Live. Everybody has that era that they are more closely attached to. But that game, I will sometimes YouTube old NBA, baseball All-Star games.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Whether I'm on the plane or in the background while I'm working. Yeah. It's calming for some reason. I love seeing that era when it's like Gonzalez, Tomey, Pudge Rodriguez, Frank Thomas, Griffey, A-Rod, Tony Gwynn. I mean, the 2001 All-Star Game was just every position, even the guys that get added are legends.
Yeah,
I
know.
And I just don't think maybe baseball is
it's young now. It's young. A lot of those All-Stars are young. They're young. We'll see how they progress. We talked about this on my show just last week because Pedro came on, and I looked at the All-Star lineups from that night, and compare them to the current All-Star lineup. I mean, like how many Hall of Famers right now can you spot in these current lineups? A handful, but
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
I mean, it jumped out at you off the lineup card, man.
Like Ken Caminiti would be in an All-Star game, and you're like, oh yeah. Right, you just get it like that. Like
it was a different time, I think, and interesting that you mentioned those Indians because I did look it up. Because Pedro struck out the first 3. God, who was it? Because I had it written down the other day. And he did strike out Hall of Famers, including by the Sosa and McGuire guys that he struck out. And you could make cases. I understand we're treading in that. Bagwell was a strike him out, throw him out. Pudge Rodriguez, Hall of Famer, was the one who threw it out. Yeah. But then they got those are the outs that he recorded. In between, they scored the American League 2 runs in the first, which even added to the excitement. Pedro goes strikeout, strikeout, strikeout. Then they get 2 runs. It was Lofton getting on, stealing a base. Manny Ramirez walking and Tomei knocking him in. There were Indians all over the diamond. And just a different time. It was incredible. And another story that I've got is, again, I covered the World Series for ESPN Radio, and I was in Yankee Stadium getting ready. Well, you had to old Yankee Stadium. There were only 2 ways to get on the field, and it was through the tunnels leading to each dugout. So for you to get on the field after the game, you had to use one of those tunnels. The issue is that the tunnel would also have to be used, if you're in the wrong one, by the losing team. They've got to come out.
Oh, God.
All right? You've got to get out right away to get set up.
Yeah.
You got to choose the right tunnel. So on the night that Jeter hit the first home run in November baseball history, because, again, if you remember the 2001 World Series, because of 9/11, it got pushed back.
Yeah.
So here we were. It was a back-and-forth game.
What's that energy like, by the way?
Unbelievable.
It's World Series. It's 9/11 World Series.
Dude, I mean, we were in Bank One Ballpark. They told us there weren't any planes flying overhead, and it's right in the flight path of the Phoenix airport, and planes were flying right overhead in Game 1. And then we were in Game 3. That's the night that George Bush threw out the first pitch. You saw Apache helicopter snipers everywhere. I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on here tonight? And the fact that guy with a bulletproof vest stepped out on that mound and threw a bullet across home plate is one of the greatest pitches I've ever seen, certainly thrown by a non-professional baseball player. I will never forget that World Series. And then here we were on the night that Jeter hit that November home run, but the lead went back and forth. Byung-Hyun Kim from the Diamondbacks blew a lead after the Diamondbacks got the lead. So we were going, because we had to choose the right tunnel to get out of, we were going, we had lined up. You had to line up. So the Fox had the first position. They're the television's rights holder. And then I was right behind them, with Charlie Steiner, who also was doing the radio coverage.
Great.
The two of us were standing next to each other behind the Fox person, whose name I don't remember right now, and then everyone else was behind us. And so when the lead changed from the Yankees to the Diamondbacks, we ran from the Yankee. And it was like the Benny Hill show. Like, remember the cop was fun,
yeah.
the cop was running with the doctor and the
Kevin
nurse.
McAllister and Home
So
Alone.
it was all of the emergency services people, cops, EMTs, and whatever that had to be there as well.
Chaperone, yeah.
And us, microphones, cameras, running from this tunnel around home plate into the visitors tunnel. And then, wait a minute. Going back and forth. And so now that the Yankees were up in the bottom half of a walk-off potential inning of a tie game, we would run back to the Yankees. Oh, they didn't get it. Run back to them. Like, we were running back and forth to choose the right egress for us because we had to choose the egress of the winning team.
Sure.
So here we were, and I was lucky because the position of me lining up next to some little room with a television set in it, a little black and white television set. I was told that little room was the room of the longtime Yankee clubhouse man, Pete Sheehy. Probably Babe Ruth probably banged 3 people in that room. And so
They call that a Pete Sheehy.
But at least they call it Pete Sheehy. So I was actually able to see on the television set, but the reception was off. And so sure enough, I hear thunder. Like thunder. I'm like, is it fucking raining? What happened? And somebody screams out, Jeter just hit a walk-off. Go, go, go. People pushing me. I'm pushing Steiner's pushing. And we all shove out, and all of a sudden the cheers and thunder gets louder and louder and louder and louder. Now I'm shoved down in Yankee Stadium. I look up, and there's 58,000 people going ape shit as Jeter's rounding third, and I'm like,
oh, you got out there just as you saw him rounding third.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm a diehard Yankee fan from birth, and I just took it all in. Like, the stadium where I grew up in is just like hopping up and down.
Rich, that's crazy.
I will never forget that night either, as Jeter's rounding third. And the crazy thing is that, as I get out there, the reception in my ears comes back, so I hear John Miller with the call, and he is pitch perfect because he's incredible. And that's my third story. So as I transition myself.
Please.
Okay. So I was begging also, as I was telling you earlier about doing other assignments and events, begging to call games. I wanted to call a baseball game in the worst way. And I finally got a chance to call a game. And it's time, to do it. And about a week beforehand, I call up John Miller. And I'm like, why not? He's a Hall of Fame announcer. I asked him for some tips, and he couldn't have been nicer.
Awesome.
Couldn't have been cooler in giving me tips. I asked him, what happens if I'm in the middle of telling a story and say the ball hits a bag, pops up in the air, and, some triple play happens? Like, what do I do? Like, how awkward is it for me to just stop telling a story? And he goes, let me ask you a question. Let's say you're having a talk with your friends, and a Playboy Playmate looking type girl walks in the bar. What do? Do you stop telling your story and look at the girl? And I'm like thinking, is this a trick question? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, the ball hitting the bag and all that stuff is like the girl. People will understand that you're stopping to tell your story to talk about what everybody's looking at.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's sold. Like, I get it.
Wow.
I get it. So stop telling your story. You don't have to finish your story if something wild's happening on your screen, and I'll never forget that story. So sure enough, cut to years later, I'm living out here in Los Angeles. Just a personal factoid that nobody really needs to know, but the matron of honor in my wedding is one of the ex-wives of Steve Mnuchin, who wound up becoming the Treasury Secretary of the United States under Trump. Years before all of that happened, we get a call saying, hey, this is, I guess, I think they were still married, and hey, Donald Trump is in town tonight here in Los Angeles. Do you want to meet to dinner?
Seeing Ed Sheeran at the Nokia Theater.
There you go.
Mnuchin's going to be there. Excuse me.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, but, growing up in New York City, Donald Trump was somebody who was
Just a goofy guy with a weird haircut. And
well
a lot of
before everything that's gone on. This is years ago. And my wife and I were like, sure, we'll go. And as you might imagine, the dinner he was always talking about was his big, beautiful golf course and how large it is, the acreage, like all of the on-brand stuff about him that you would say.
Now, before he's Trump of now, are you just looking at him as like for me, when I've been around people that are that braggadocious, I just kind of laugh them off and don't even take them seriously.
Exactly.
You find a way to enjoy.
Certainly. Again,
and be
don't
amused.
forget, like he was the guy on Stern. He was at the roasts for many years before all this insanity.
And could take a joke. It felt like,
of course.
Yeah.
So, I'm listening to all this stuff, and he's telling his 15th story about his golf course or whatever. And in the middle of the story, some like statuesque 6'2" brunette walks behind me, and he stops telling the story. And he goes, "Oh wow, she's beautiful," and proceeds to finish the story. When he's done with that, I say to him the story I just told you about calling baseball games.
Yes.
And John Miller told me, keep telling your story. No one's going to, bat an eyelash. You stop to talk about the beautiful woman in the room. And I'm like, you are the first person to actually put it into practice, like in real time.
Oh, my God.
Like you're the first guy to do it. You just did it.
You just
did
it, man.
And I've been following that advice for everything that I've done, live in my career that I'm calling. And yet you just did it. And, John Miller's right. Like,
I'm the John Miller of entrepreneurs.
That's what I said. I'm like, I didn't bat an eyelash. We all looked at her.
We all looked and went right back
and
to
he
you.
just went like this. Just made this, look on his face and then continued telling his story.
By the way, that face you just made,
that was it.
And that's him kind of taking the compliment, but also being like, duh.
Or not laughing at it
or not
or
listening,
whatever.
not hearing it.
Just why?
Did he laugh? Would you remember a moment where he said,
No.
Yeah.
Because to me, I'm like, God. I've never seen another human being actually put that advice.
That's crazy.
On how to call a baseball game or any sporting event when in the middle of a story that something happens.
Oh, man.
And John Miller is right. We all looked at her.
Would you? And here's how fucked up, like the train wreck of who he is. If you put him in the booth for a game, for an inning, I'd probably listen. To hear him call Trump. Call a game.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd be great.
Well, I know we just it was the anniversary of Bo Jackson's All-Star home run last week.
Yeah.
34 years. Then Reagan was in the booth.
That's right.
As Scully was calling.
I watched that clip that you guys from the show. Yeah, that was crazy. Wow. Favorite baseball movie?
Oh.
If you have an honorable mention, that's fine.
You know what? I will go Bull Durham. I just find it so funny and so real and so, You
love Costner.
I do.
Yeah.
Because Field of Dreams would be my next. Costner is just spectacular.
Come on.
He's
Does he
just
miss?
a real dude, too.
Tin Cup could have been nominated for an Academy Award.
Dude.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was in Draft Day.
Oh, yeah.
As well.
I'll rewatch. That's a rewatch for me.
I just got a few of those these days. I always love getting these calls. So, you know what? I just turn on the TV. It always starts higher register. Like, I just turn on the TV. I saw, like, what are you doing there? Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I mean,
you're natural.
I sometimes sneak in.
Yeah.
I sneak in through the side door. You don't see me coming.
I know you, Dan Patrick's, he's a homie of yours, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's. I think I saw him when Adam Devine went on his show recently, and he said he's been in like 30 Sandler films.
Oh, he's in a ton of Sandler movies. Oh,
and
yeah.
Adam didn't know that, and I was like, are you fucking insane? Like, almost every movie.
Right.
As soon as I get to that level, mark my words, you'll be my Dan Patrick.
I'm here for you, brother.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to close this out with
a
couple things. First of all, let me tell you this. I got married in October. Any advice? You're how many years in?
20.
Wow, muzzle.
20. Attentiveness.
Yeah.
That is
Listen to the stories.
Yes. Attentiveness. Very well. No, just be there.
Yeah.
Don't try to fix things. Hear them out. I would suggest hear them out. Don't try to fix. What else can I tell you? It's kind of funny. Did you ever see what was the name of the show on HBO with the bigamist with Bill Paxton? Yeah. I forget what it was called.
Not 13 Wives.
He had 3 wives in it.
Butt stuff? No, what was it called? Mormon, Utah.
Whatever it was called.
Stockton City. No, it was based in Utah. It was Big Love.
Big Love. And I remember watching an episode of it. I remember watching an episode of it. And he comes out of a meeting and turns his phone back on. And he listens to it and he goes, "You have 18 new messages." And I thought to myself, if I had 3 wives, I'd probably even take the over on the. He's gone for an hour.
Oh,
you have 18 new
That's
messages.
So fucking funny, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
it is.
You guys laugh a lot.
We do.
You strike me as a couple that does.
We
yeah.
do.
Okay, I'm going to say a name, and then I want you to give me either a story, a sentence, something that they mean to you.
Sure.
Stuart Scott.
Love him. Oh my God. It's just I have nothing but love and warmth, and getting to know him. He called me his TV wife all the time.
Wow.
And my wife who just hit me on the phone here. She was a producer there, and I wanted to, go out with her on the spot. It took her 3 years to understand my value. And Stuart had a front row seat to me, attempting and getting rebuffed, and her thinking but pulling back. And he constantly tried to play us to the middle and, get us together. Because you could speak to anybody who's come across Stuart, and he's always like, love each other and make kids and be family and whatever. And he always played us to the middle. And so, as you know, we eventually get married, my wife and I. And there's a photograph of me on the wedding night of Stuart holding my hand and looking at the wedding ring with this big smile on his face. Wow. That has 2 messages. One is, it happened. And then the other message is, we did it. Wow. Like, yeah, we did this. Like he had a role in it. And, like that is quintessential Stuart. Here's another great story.
Please.
I've told this multiple times, so I'll.
New audience.
Oh, my God. So it's the NBA All-Star Game night in New York City, and Stuart and I have to. It's happening on Sunday, Madison Square, and it's one where Kobe waved off Karl Malone from the block, and wanted to go one-on-one. I think against Jordan.
Probably.
It was a moment. I believe they did cover that moment in The Last Dance.
Yeah.
Stuart was not happy about having to do the Saturday night SportsCenter at 11 o'clock. He was pissed because he thought he had earned the right through his work over the years to get that night off, not have to do just the normal SportsCenter routine, just a Saturday night SportsCenter that didn't really require his presence.
Sure.
Like he felt like he should have been part of the mix. He was not happy about doing it. I had a place on the Upper West Side, a crashing pad to just go and live life outside of the Connecticut bubble.
Yeah.
So we take a car down. He gets the car, and we're sitting in the back. He's on the phone a lot, and he's not happy about a few things. We finally get to New York City, and he's like, let's go to one of the parties. The party at All-Star Cafe, if you remember. It was like the sports version of Planet Hollywood.
Yes.
I think
Love
it was
that stuff.
Tiger and Griffey and Gretzky.
Yes.
They were the owners, right?
Maybe Jordan.
There'd be sports memorabilia.
Yeah. It's like a Wahlburgers for
right,
sports.
Tiger. So anyway, yes. And it's in Times Square.
Yeah.
We pull the car into Times Square, and people are walking out of the All-Star Cafe. We didn't get down in time. Like the 11 o'clock sport enter midnight, lead-footed it down. It was like 2 a.m. And the party's over. And I'm like, well, that's that. He goes, what do you mean that's that? He goes, there's got to be another party. I'm like, how are we going to know it? And he goes, hold on a second. Tells the driver to pull over on 7th fucking Avenue. And we're pulled over in a spot where cars are definitely not supposed to be stopping in Times Square, regardless of the time of day or night. And he gets out and he walks up to a cop. And I'm like thinking to myself, what is he doing?
Yeah.
So of course the cop knows who he is. And he opens the car door up and he goes, cops always know where the next party is. He goes, it's on 33rd Street. And he has the car drop us off at 33rd and like 7th or 8th. And we get out. and we start walking west. And I am in a neighborhood I've never been in. And I am suddenly, as we're walking west to this club, the only white guy on the street.
Sure.
And Stuart Scott is like parting the Red Sea. He is Moses. And one guy walks up to us and he looks at Stuart, and if the camera that I'm on is me,
yes.
The guy goes, "Stuart Scott, oh my God, I can't believe this. You are a legend. You are a god." And the white guy, is here. And Stuart,
oh man,
loved that story. He could not have scripted it more to his delight than that exchange.
Oh my fucking God, dude.
And the white guy.
It's the name of your memoir. ... And
the white guy. Maybe so. I mean, I could fill up another hour and a half with
Rich,
Stu's stories.
You're unbelievable. 2 more names. Cool?
Yeah.
Chris Brockman.
Oh, Brockman is my guy. You're mentioning Chris Brockman. He's my on-air compadre on my show. I met him years ago. He was at NFL Network. And he is a masshole of the first variety, but incredibly talented. And so when it was time for my podcast that I was doing, I started a podcast at NFL Network in 2011. And immediately upon starting it, the lockout hit. So programming came to me and said, "Hey, we'd love to televise your podcast because we're looking for cheap programming." And I said, "I will do it as long as you call it inexpensive programming with other people.
Yeah.
Just don't call it cheap."
Yeah.
That's all I ask.
Yes.
So we ended up doing our podcast on camera for the first time. That required getting a producer who would cut up the footage and make an actual half-hour television show out of a podcast that ran an hour and a half long, and Chris was the guy. And so Chris started to do it, and then I kind of caught wind of his love of sports and his mass-holishness and his sense of comedy. And even though he's got this gruff exterior, he's got this sweet interior, and I put him on the air with me and another colleague of ours named Chris Law, who also did start the show with us.
Right.
Chris is no longer with the show for about 5 some odd years, but Brockman has been with us since, our show and since Jump. And, now he and Sarah Tiana are power couple with a beautiful baby.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris is just, somebody I wouldn't want to do my show daily without. And same thing with TJ Jefferson, who's now on our show as well, another on-air compadre. Our audio executive, as he likes to be referred to, is our sound guy. His name is Mike Del Tufo. He's a Jersey guy who was also an original NFL Network guy. So I've known him for 20 years.
Wow.
And
it matters to have that,
chemistry.
Absolutely. And familiarity.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Reggie Jackson and Don Mattingly.
Oh, my God. Reggie got me into being a Yankee fan, and Mattingly is my favorite Yankee of all time.
Favorite athlete of all time, too?
Favorite athlete of all time. Yeah, I'll go with that. Why not?
Nice.
Mattingly's an athlete.
Yeah.
He's my favorite. I mean, Reggie, I've had fortunate to have both of them on and tell them both to their face what they mean to me. I mean, Reggie got me in a. This will be my last story I'll tell you here. So, because I'm sure I'm boring.
No, Rich, we could do this for 5 hours, dude.
So Mattingly, I mean, I loved him from Jump. He comes along 2 years after Reggie is dispatched by Steinbrenner to the Angels and stalking Queen Elizabeth with Frank Drebin on his tail. And long story short, Mattingly becomes my favorite player. And it's obvious that the team's not very good around him. And it's the first time in my Yankee fandom that my team's letting me down a little bit. And I'm wondering if they're any good, but Mattingly's my guy, and I'm desperate for him to stay a Yankee. And Steinbrenner got on his case for his long mullet that he wore.
Yeah.
He wanted him to cut his hair, and he started criticizing Mattingly, who was on the verge of becoming a free agent. So I'm a freshman at Michigan, and the Yankees are coming into Tiger Stadium. And I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to personally make sure Don Mattingly does not leave the Yankees, because I'm going to tell him, on behalf of all Yankee fans, how valuable he is and how wonderful he is, and he can't leave people like me representing a whole Yankee fandom.
Wow.
So I get a car from one of my fraternity brothers, and I drive down to Tiger Stadium. And I get there way before first pitch, like the fences are fucking locked. And I wait, and I'm the first one in the stadium.
What's that like?
And wild.
Yeah.
And I am belly up. I am belly up to the dugout of the Yankee away dugout. I am going to have my say, which I have rehearsed on the drive down, waiting for the gate to open, waiting for Mattingly. And I'm like, I'm going to tell him, you can't do this. Don't worry about Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
You are special to us.
Your hair's beautiful.
You are the only, your hair's beautiful, whatever it is.
Don't change.
You don't touch it. Just don't listen to that guy.
Yeah.
Do not leave us.
It's actually
and
George
I had
Costanza.
it, exactly. I had it
Larry
all worked out, Adam. And the first guy out of the dugout, locker room, door, is Don Mattingly. And I am face to fucking face with my guy. And I go, Donnie Baseball! Woo! Woo!
Oh, yikes.
And he turns around, gets bug-eyed, and runs away from me. Never saw him. Cut to
I mean, what were you supposed to do?
cut to the All-Star game in Seattle, which was, what,
2001.
I'm there for ESPN Radio.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the sidelines on ESPN TV of the celebrity softball game.
Awesome.
Captain of one of the teams, Don Mattingly. And I am now face-to-face with Don again, and he tells me, I love watching you. I watch you all the time.
Wow.
I almost started crying on the spot, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you have no idea what you mean to me. And I told him, like, what you've meant to me, so thank you for everything. I just unburdened myself. And he turns around and goes, well, nice to meet you, Rich. And I'm like, well,
Hold that down.
Don, we have met before. And he goes, what do you mean? And I told him the story of what happened. And I said, do you remember? And he goes, no, I don't. So I embarrassed myself
Hey, man, a lot of people scream Donnie Baseball.
again.
Yeah. Well, you doubled down.
I doubled down because I only know one speed. I only know one way to be, man.
Dude, ... and the white guy.
And the white guy.
That's unbelievable. All right, last one. Susie, your wife.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yeah.
Are we doing this?
Yeah.
Oh, I love her. She's my world, brother. She's the center of our universe. The kids, me, her. She had me at hello, to use the
Wow.
the sports phrase. I did not. You know.
Where's the first date? What was that? You said it took a minute to
The
court.
2000-something ESPYs, I forget.
Great.
Yeah,
first
man.
date.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck. I thought you were going to say like Panera.
No,
Bristol
no,
or something.
in Vegas. In Vegas.
Vegas has a Panera?
No,
That's not the first time I've asked
no,
that
the
today.
ESPYs in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, and the fact that I get to work with her too. She, does my show when I'm out of the chair. She's going to do a podcast this fall with Amy Trask, the longtime executive of the Raiders.
Yeah.
They're going to do it together. Hasn't been announced yet, but I guess I'm
Unreal.
interested to hear. So the fact that I have a production company with her, and then we've got 3 kids together, and obviously she's my wife for 20 years, and she is truly the center of my universe.
That's beautiful, man.
Thanks, pal.
Is she a sports fan too?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. That helps.
Another masshole.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, man. When we first started having kids, and the Celtics bibs and Red Sox onesies
God.
and Patriots gear comes to the
no.
house, and I had to make a decision. And this is something as well. Like, is your wife
She's a
fan?
Cardinal. She's an AZ girl.
Okay.
But she's adopted my Seahawks
which is great.
because
No,
the Cardinals are struggling.
Good enough. I had sort of like an attorney in a criminal trial, preemptories of who gets to sit in the jury. So I'm being a Jet fan and a Michigan guy. when Patriots gear comes to the house, and it's 2007, 2008, 2009, and Tom Brady is winning championships, for me to turn to a child and say, you must be a Jet fan, Child Services would ring my doorbell and take the child away from me.
They'd have to.
Okay, so that's aside. The Knicks, James Dolan I am not a fan of. I have been very critical of him on my show. So, the 80s kid in me who hated Bird and McHale and Parrish and ML Carr waving his towel and Danny Ainge and all those guys would be very upset with me for saying, okay, Celtics, fine.
Yeah.
Red Sox gear, though, I had to draw a line in the sand,
Thank God you did.
I had to draw a line in the sand, and all that shit went back east. And, I have that has denied them championships. I'm not going to lie. But there has to be something in a line in the sand. Plus, Susie went to Columbia, so college football and basketball is wide open. So I have put Michigan front and center in our
That's
house.
what you should.
So, yeah. There's that.
That's amazing. It does help to have, your better half, like, not be, I don't know if you have to. My brother-in-law, Dirte, the white rapper, my sister's married to a white rapper. His name is Dirte.
The white guy?
Yeah, and the white guy.
Yeah.
He's also a big sports fan, but my sister and he have to, it's sometimes a battle of, like, how much you get to watch during the football season. Like, you don't get to, Sunday isn't going to be a wash. You pick a game or whatever. So I don't know how you balance that out through your career. But I guess
Sunday,
it's your job. So
yeah, man. Sunday was look, everyone in the house knows that there's a lot of work that needs to be done watching television.
Yes.
And I know it's difficult to tell the kids, get off TV, do your homework. And they're like, you watch TV for work? Like, shit, that is correct. But, this is what puts a roof over the head.
Totally.
The last big battle, though, over the remote involving sports and not in our house was Ohio State and Georgia. The national semifinal college football game went down to 11:59:30 of New Year's Eve, and my oldest son, who's not really into sports all that much, and my daughter insisted on watching the ball drop, and the game-winning kick, whether Ohio State or Georgia would go on to the national championship game, and Ohio State moving on after Michigan had just lost earlier in the day to TCU. I had just gotten back from the airport, having flown with my youngest son to watch that disaster unfold in Arizona. Got home just in time to see the end of that game, but lost out to Dad. You'll see the kick on your phone in like 2 minutes. Let's watch the ball drop.
Yeah.
And the ball dropped.
Seacrest called midnight once.
My 2023 began with the spiteful wish of when I hit last channel after the ball's dropping, I will turn back and see either Georgia celebrating or my fucking nightmare of the Buckeyes, who we thought we killed off with our second consecutive win against them in November.
Yeah.
If they've now moved on to the national championship game instead of my team, and I hit the last channel. That's how my 2023 began, by hitting the last channel one more time, and I saw, Georgia, and I saw, all the Bulldogs going around, and
oh my God,
it was just a
remote battle, a family remote battle.
It started. So 2023 began with a family remote battle and a very spiteful sports moment for me, and it all worked out.
It all worked out.
It did,
and it's all working out. You're a goddamn legend.
Oh, brother.
I can't thank you enough for making time. Truly, Rich.
You asked, you coming on my show, you're like, hey, I want to have you on, and I know I've been,
You're busy.
You
reached out. I need people to know that it's like following up. I mean, you know this, getting people to come on the show. It's like timing is so imperative.
Yes.
And everyone has.
But I'm old school, and if I make a commitment,
I appreciate that.
It's something I want to carry through on. Plus, I tell people all the time, hey, if you're in LA, let me know you're in town. So I was free, and I let you know. So I'm glad it could work out.
Happy pre-Yom Kippur. I don't know how to.
I hope I see you before September.
We will.
Okay.
Seahawks, real quick. You think they're going to make a splash?
Did you see their throwbacks today? They announced the '90s throwbacks.
Did you guys cover that at all on the show?
We didn't have time for it today, but we're going to do it tomorrow.
Okay, good.
Because their rollout of it was phenomenal. They did a whole.
I'll try to get you one.
Yeah.
It looks incredible.
Oh, my God.
I love that shit, right?
Big time.
And those are great colors.
Because
And
sometimes they don't look so good. This one is, as the kids say, fire.
Do you think Pete Carroll will win one more Super Bowl before he retires? Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
No. It's all about a quarterback. It's really all about the quarterback. You know, I mean, we talk. That's all we've been talking about over the last week. It was, you know, the running back market, and do you pay running backs or not? And you don't have to pay running backs in a world if you're, Mahomes. You don't need a guy who runs 700 rushing yards because you're Mahomes, and that's Mahomes has won 2 out of the last 4. And you know, if you get the quarterback, it'll be, you know, the running game. And the passing game coming off the running game is kind of an old school way of working.
Yeah.
However, the guys that they've got catching passes in Seattle are sneaky, top notch in terms of a grouping. I mean, DK Metcalf, along with Lockett, and now Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is a dynamite receiver out of Ohio State.
Surprise.
You know, and Kenneth Walker. Look, I can personally, as a Michigan fan, tell you, Kenneth Walker can run down your throat, and Jackson Smith-Njigba can run past you. And then they got that kid Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. They've got, and they put Bobby Wagner back where he belongs, and Jamal Adams is coming back from injury, and thanks to the Russell Wilson trade, they got that kid Witherspoon, who's insanely talented. With the kids they already have on the line and on the back end, who are insanely talented.
Tariq, Diggs.
Dude, I'm telling you,
Kobe,
they have got it's if Geno can do again what he did last year, you've got your, like, you can't say no.
Cool. I'll take that.
You got it.
I'll take that. Rich Eisen, and my favorite part of one of my favorite parts of your show is watching the clips the next day because, and I said this on your show, you've got sweet silky pipes. In addition to being an attentive, generous man with a gift of gab,
Thanks.
One of my favorite, just being a appreciator of people who've been gifted and use their pipes appropriately, the way that you end your clips with. You made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that.
Yeah, okay.
It's my favorite.
Fantastic.
It's my favorite.
I appreciate that. Come back, brother.
I love you.
Same.
Thanks, Rich.